I have so many questions.
We might hit you twice. That's why we're moving to you now.
It's interesting because one of them, I think, follows this, what you were just describing. And actually you hit on, like, I even was just writing down words that I felt like there was a question, and you've actually answered some of those through this conversation.
We're all in
so
on
far,
this
and it's
together.
Really pretty cool. So you've mentioned before tapping into, like, the original enthusiasm that was the impetus to incarnate, right? That there was a tremendous amount of excitement and enthusiasm to come here. So tapping into that, right, is what our goal is here, right, is to remember that enthusiasm and to apply it to harnessing energy.
To feel it where it is now. Not necessarily to remember. And this is where we're going to clean this up a little bit for you, because it's not about going back to the idyllic state of when you got here.
Right.
Because it's expanded into where it is now.
Right.
So it's that giving yourself the permission through the acknowledgement and honoring of the desire to meet up with it where it is now. Not to go back to where it was when you got here, but to meet up with where it has expanded to now.
Or maybe the phrase that comes to mind as you say that is kind of aligning with the intention, right? And the
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And basically channeling that into this physical reality, and you've talked about using that, I think, that energy to for all of our creative endeavors here, like you mentioned harnessing electricity as an example in a previous talk, and just thinking about where that has really led us, that creative expression, within the physical realm, and that now we are highly dependent on technology, right? And maybe this isn't the right word, but we've kind of forgotten in a lot of ways how to actually survive and be on our planet. And that's caused us to see ourselves as separate from nature and earth and each other. And, you were talking about separateness earlier, and I'm struggling with reconciling those two things, right? The idea of coming here to play and see where, to apply our intention and to manipulate this physical realm, but where it's got us, and where it's actually creating more sense of separation, like quickly, right? In our sense of time, and time was another subject that I thought was really fascinating that you touched on that too. But I feel like it all comes back to, or for me, it's and you mentioned this time being so, it's a powerful time to be here, right? An exciting time. And I think that we all have a bit of existential fear associated with sensing that intensity of this time.
Which you pick up, and again, that really isn't something you come in with. You know better than that, and that's a nice lane to get back into when we like these choice of words here. If you're thinking about sort of rejoining something, linking back up with something, linking back up with that pure enthusiasm that brought you forward. It's sort of like lanes on a highway, and you're in one lane, and then you get however many miles down the highway, and you get back into that lane. You don't go back to where you got out of that lane to rejoin the lane. You meet back up with that lane where it is now. And so that sort of takes care of both, where you rejoin, but it's expanded beyond where it was. And so this is where you can't help but be aware, especially in these times, of what's going on with others. And we're not just talking about those that you share a household with or live in your neighborhood. We're talking about the friends in Gaza, or you got your fingers in all the pies everywhere. And by the way you feel when you're overextending your focus. Because when it feels good for you to pay attention to as much as possible, and you really have a clear sense of what that good feeling is, you've acquainted yourself with and given yourself clarity around, I'm in the positive zone right now, I can tell. I'm at least in a contented state of being. I'm feeling really satisfied. I'm feeling really appreciative. That is flowing really easily for me right now. I'm even enthusiastic about something that others might consider to be very mundane, but I'm really, really excited about eating a chocolate peanut butter cup right now, whatever it is. We looked right at you when we said it, moving in your direction. And so you have the sensitivity to know what zone you are in when you are focused on whatever you are focused on. And this network of access that you have to the world was born of desire. A desire to see more of the world, to understand more about the world, to participate on a greater scale in the world. And yet, as you're acknowledging, it's not really serving very many friends very well for the most part, but it can serve you enormously well at any time in spite of what's going on with everyone else. So that's when we want to encourage you to get your nose out of everybody else's business and stop taking polls as to how this is working out for everyone else, and just pay attention to the way that it feels for you. And when it doesn't feel good for you, shut it off. And into shutting it off, decide what you activate instead, so that you don't just sort of move into a sort of liminal void, sort of, but you decide, oh, I don't want this, now what? Based upon, don't want this. And sometimes something is calling you and you're giving your attention to something that feels increasingly uncomfortable to you, and that increasing discomfort and the situation that is inspiring that increasing discomfort is really the pulling you down that lets you spring enthusiastically in another direction. So rather than demonize that bad thing that shouldn't even exist at all as a temptation to focus on, you can say, thank you, dramatic thing that I don't want to focus on at all, because you're really catapulting me experientially in the direction of what I do want instead going forward. And work it in little by little whenever you think about it. This one gets out now that the weather is improving by his standards and is taking more walks. And he likes this neighborhood a lot because there are hills and there is flat and there's a good combination of components to sort of vary the walk a little bit. And he's noticing that he's spending a lot of time on devices and wanting to take respite, and is acknowledging, recognizing, experiencing the benefit of getting out, breathing the air, and being out in the open, exposed to and experiencing the world around him outside of his little office upstairs. And so that's a good step in the direction of connecting with the environment in a desire-based, pleasurable way. And he's careful not to get frustrated and go and take a walk immediately. If he's feeling frustrated with something, it's just not lining up for him, he keeps hitting a glitch or the software keeps freezing or whatever it is, shuts it down, he elevates himself into the positive zone, and then he comes down and puts his shoes on and goes for a walk, because he knows now he has vibrational access to linking up with more and more and more pleasure, because he did the internal work before he did the external work of taking a walk. And then he noticed, in the satisfaction of doing that increasingly, that even having the AirPods in and listening to music, he thought, can't I just take a walk? Can't I just listen to the sounds of the world around me? In other words, I'm seeing it, I'm experiencing it in all of these ways, and yet I want to kick it up a notch. I want to take it even a step further. I don't need to distract myself by listening to Taylor Swift while I'm walking. I can fully immerse myself in this experience here. And it was just a next logical step. And there's no right or wrong. It's not wrong to take the AirPods. It's not, in fact, put them in your pocket in case you want them along the walk, whatever you want to do. But in terms of being connected in desire-based ways to the environment, we would just find any opportunity to work it in a next logical step sort of way whenever it occurs to you, rather than try to go from an awareness in frustration of a rampant disconnection in the population of the globe to just, well, then I'm gonna go to the top of a mountain and try to bridge that gap, because you're probably gonna take all of that frustration with you to the top of a mountain where it totally doesn't belong, and then you're gonna flog yourself for ruining your mountain jaunt. And so finding ways to work it in and paying attention to your standards. Again, that's a little bit what we were touching on with everybody's, it's far more than 31 flavors. Everybody likes a different flavor of ice cream, and there's just no right or wrong about it overall. Source hasn't determined this is good, this is bad, follow the rules and good luck to you. That's so far off the mark from the way it works. But you have personal preferences that are inevitable. And increasingly, you have them. So pay attention to those and do for yourself what you desire, both internally and first internally, and then take external action from there, and just experience how you are when conversations catch your awareness, the exception to what everybody's talking about. Oh, the world's a shithole and everything's just getting worse. And you're thinking, I just had the best night of sleep and I'm feeling so good today and I'm so enthusiastic about what's going to be on the table for dinner tonight, and you're feeling good. And then we'll say this before we take our break. Don't show off about it. Don't rub it in everybody else's face. Allow the cooperative components to link up with you and share it with those who are matching up with it. But don't lower your vibration by then needing everybody else to do what you're modeling doing so that you can maintain doing it. Do you understand what we're saying there with don't show off about it?
Yeah.
Because you just be it. Just focus on being it. A beautiful flower isn't coming from an insecure place intending to show off. Sitting in the garden along the sidewalk saying, oh, I really hope someone notices me today, because if I don't, I'm going to catch so much shame from all of my flower friends when we all get together later and talk. It's just being beautiful. And everybody that notices it from the positive zone is enhanced in their communion with it. And anybody who's in the negative zone doesn't notice it, and that's all right. Good? For now?
Yes, thank you.
Again, we might come back to you.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Friends, let's have our halftime. Good time for it.